Let's get things started with a pack of playing cards and a bit of psychological strategy. Do you play cards?
Yeah.
Then you'll be perfect. Stand right here. You get a nice round of applause for volunteering. Your name? Tom. Tom, this is a pack of 53 cards, but we'll take out the Joker for reasons that'll be obvious in a moment. So now it's 52 cards, and the reason is that every card has a mate now, which will be important as we go along. You say you play cards. What's your game?
Poker.
Poker, perfect. Then you can get things off to a fair poker start by shuffling the deck together. Go ahead. A professional. You can sort of push them together, otherwise it doesn't really count as a shuffle. Splendid. And in fact, I'm going to get you some assistant shufflers just to make things as fair as possible, all right?
Sure.
You. Could you take about a quarter of the deck and mix them up? And let's see, about a quarter of the deck for you, sir, if you do the same thing. Here. That's about reasonable enough. How is your shuffling technique?
Pretty good.
Pretty good? All right, then I'll give about a quarter of the deck to you. Go ahead.
Okay.
And lastly, but not leastly, shuffle them up again. So now 5 people have actually been involved in shuffling this deck. When you're satisfied they're mixed, I'll take them back. Good. Great. Oh, she wants to do a little extra. That's all right.
One more time.
Okay. Now, here's the way it works. I've got a situation here where everything is completely mixed up by various people. I'm going to turn my back, and you will take any one of the 4, okay? From that, you will remove a card and place it into your pocket. I want you to know what it is, but you can do this one of 2 ways. You can either hold the cards face down, pluck one at random from your chosen group, and put it in your pocket. Or you can look at the cards, decide which one you like from that group, and put it in your pocket. Either way, you will have a free choice that is in your pocket. Do I make myself clear?
I think so.
All right, pick up any one of the groups. Mix them again if you like. Remove a card either with the cards face up or face down. Look at that removed card, put it into your pocket. Remix that packet just to be sure. Replace the packet on the table. And I'll turn to face you. Now look, we've had a deck of cards shuffled not just by you, but by other members of this group. You have done all of the choosing at random with my back turned. If I were any more fair about this, you'd be doing the routine for me. Now, if this were a traditional card trick, then the object would be for me to locate the card you chose. But in this circumstance, that's pathetically easy. The card you chose is in your pocket. Yes. So instead, we're going to deal with the mate of your card. That's the reason we got rid of the Joker, because every card in the deck has a mate. So if, for example, if you chose the Ace of Spades, and if you did, say so now and we'll end the routine quickly.
Nope.
But if you had chosen the Ace of Spades, then we would now be looking for the Ace of Clubs, which would be somewhere among the groups on the table. So you understand the game at work. Whatever the card you took, we're going to be trying to find the mate of that card, the card of the same color and value. Now, do you happen to know which of these 4 groups contains the mate of the card in your pocket?
Not in the
Well,
select.
if you don't know, then clearly I cannot know, and that's what makes the thing so fascinating, or at least in theory. Let me do this. I will show you these piles one at a time, and you look as I fan them to you. If you see the mate of your card, I don't want you to say anything. I just want you to think yes, you see. And if you don't see the mate, I want you to think no. But do this all silently, and we'll see if I can in some way or other try and give you a sense of whether the mate is there. You're thinking no.
Correct.
Correct. So the mate of your card is not among this group. All right. In real world terms, that's an applause cue, but we'll move on. No, they're not sure. Look at this group, and again, if you see the mate, say yes, but do it mentally, and if I'm getting a no.
Correct.
It's also not here. Okay, let's give this group a shot. Whoa, that was a loud yes. Not perhaps loud to you, but to those of us with the proper training. Did you? Yeah, it's one of these, somewhere in here. So I will divide the cards in this set into red and black, and all you do is think red or black as to which group is the correct one. Don't look at the groups, look at me. Thank you. We're sticking with the reds, yes? Okay, so I will divide these into hearts and well, there's only one diamond in this particular group. That's going to make it too easy. Let's divide them into odd and even, all right? That'll be a little, yeah, that's about half and half. So here we are, odd and even, and that was good. It's in the even group.
Yes.
Let's do it into high and low. These are the big ones. These are the small ones, and you've got, all right, and we're down to 2. One of these should be the right one. The question is which. Don't say anything. Just think of which it is. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to, don't say anything. Just I'm going to show you this one. Yeah, I'm going to show you this one. So it should, yeah, okay, I think I'm in business. Give me the card from your pocket, please. And the card is the 8 of diamonds. So if I have done what I set out to do, the card that I am holding here should be the
8 of hearts.
8 of hearts. Let's get a whole bunch of people involved in something, and it's going to involve those 3 books. I'll get back to them. They're thrillers. The details of the books are not important for the time being. Each of them runs just over 400 pages. So would you do me a favor, and would you think of a number, don't say it, but think of a number anywhere from 1 to 400. We'll make that the limit. Fair enough? Have you got one?
Yeah.
Would you think of one also? Would you do the same? And you and you. That'll be enough. Okay? Now, on one of my business cards, would you just write your number there, leave enough room for them to add their numbers underneath, all right? So write whatever your number is. You don't show it around, and certainly not to me. And when you've done that, hand that over to the lady next to you, and if you would write yours, and we'll carry on down. While we're doing that, gentlemen, here, your name?
Dean.
Dean, 3 books. Would you do me a favor and grab one and pick it up? Hold it with your right hand. Grab one with your left hand, please, right now. And you can see that they're quite different books. I don't know if you've read either of them, have you?
No, I have not.
All right. Is there one that stands out to you? All right, that's the one we'll use. Put that back. What have you got there? It's Lawrence Sanders. Yeah, it's one of the best sellers from a few years back. We're almost done with our numbers. Now, there are about 400 pages in that book. You can actually take a look and see. It should be past the 400 mark. And as far as I know, we have 5 different numbers. If 2 of you thought of the same number, well, that's sort of a bonus effect on this routine. I'm going to show you the numbers. I'm going to hold them so I can't see them.
Right.
So you will pick one of their numbers
Okay.
at random, so that even if I had gotten a glimpse of something that one of them wrote, I wouldn't know which one. Now, am I holding them right side up for your orientation?
down.
All right.
Okay.
You've got a number?
I do.
Whatever that is, turn to that page, but make sure the book is facing so that no one can see what's there except yourself. Tell me when you're on that page.
I am on that.
Okay, say nothing out loud. To yourself, read the first sentence or two, whatever the first phrase or sentence is on that page. Don't say anything out loud, but read it, and hopefully it's something that we can make some sort of imagery out of. Don't say anything out loud, just, are you set? Mm-hmm. Okay, let me see if I can get some sort of a sense about this. It's a little abstract. Would have been nicer if it was something a little more straightforward. This is a little bit roundabout, but I think I can make it make sense, at least the sense of the imagery I'm getting. Look at me. And I'm gonna start off with that. Now, don't tell me. I mean, that may be operative or not. It feels like the right thing to draw, but I think I need to add some more detail, or it doesn't make any sense at all. So, all right. There. I think that's. It's that I'm thinking about, but there's one extra element that I'm just getting here, and I hope I'm right, but I'm going to add one comment, if you will, that may or may not make this work. Read the phrase or the sentence, whatever it says.
It's the end of one phrase.
Yeah.
Hair. No, not hair. It's a wig. A black.
Wait. Hair. No, not hair.
No, not
So
hair.
so it was something, and then it was something that wasn't
The end
something.
of another phrase.
See, this explains the comment, because first it was hair, but not hair. Hi there. And your name is
Serena.
Serena, you and I are going to try and experiment in sort of cross purposes, and it involves this deck of playing cards, and I'm going to try to send the name of a playing card to you, from my mind to yours, and at the same time, you are going to try and send a card from your mind into mine.
Okay.
And we're going to try and do this without anybody getting hurt. Now, the only thing I want to avoid here is I don't want to have us think of the same card. While that would be very impressive, were that the intent of this demonstration, it would be confusing in this circumstance. So don't tell me what card you're going to choose, because that obviously would make it too easy for me to figure out. But let's do it this way. So to avoid the same card, do you prefer red or black?
Red.
Red, all right. Then you will send a red card to me. And therefore, I will send a black card to you, and we won't be thinking the same card. Now, the other thing I want to make sure is that nobody later on says, well, she just helped him out. She said whatever he said, and she agreed. So we're going to commit ourselves in writing. All right, and I brought these two little pieces of paper and a pencil so that I can jot down the card I want to send to you. You can jot down the card you want to send to me. Later on, we can prove that we didn't fudge anything just to help each other out. Okay? Now, do you want to write your card down first or second? Because someone's going to say there was a procedural...
I'll do it first.
Okay, you're going to go first. And I'm sorry, which piece of paper did you want?
How about this one?
Okay, because someone later might say, oh, well, you know, he gave her the special piece. All right. Jot down the name of the card you're going to try and send to me, and then we'll fold up the piece of paper so that nobody gets to see it quite yet. All right? Okay. And to make it really simple and not take 3 hours, you can just write down the number and the letter. So in other words, if you were thinking of the ace of spades, you could write an A for ace and an S for spades, or the two of spades, a 2 and an S. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay, go for it. Don't show them, because they don't deserve to know. Okay, did you write it down? Yeah. Fold up your paper and set it on the table, because that's the evidence that'll prove whether who's right or not. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to write down a card for you, and I'm not going to show you mine either. All right, so I'm going to put mine over here. You can tell mine is the one that's all scooched, and yours is the one that's so neat and lovely. All right. I'm going to divide the deck approximately in half. That's about as close as I'm going to get tonight. Anyway, I'm going to give you half the deck. I'll keep half for myself. All right? Would you take the cards behind your back? Don't drop them. It slows things down. But take them behind your back, and you take these behind my back, and I'm going to shuffle mine. You shuffle yours. Okay?
Okay.
Now pull out a card, just at random, and put it face down on the table in front of you. Okay, and I'll take the rest back. All right. Now let's recap. Everything has been done fair and square. We've both done the same things in the order you said to do them. You made the choice about color. You made the choice about who went first, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I was trying to send a card to you, and I was trying to send to you 10S, the 10 of spades. And you were trying to send to me Q heart, the Queen of Hearts. All right? Okay. So those were our target cards. The 10 of spades and the Queen of Hearts.
There's no way that they're there.
Well, turn off the cameras and we'll just stop. No, you have to understand something. This isn't just a demonstration. This is an L&L tape. And at these prices, there's the 10 of spades, and there's the Queen of Hearts. A little mystery with 10 mysterious envelopes. They are not only mysterious, they are also color coordinated to the rest of my ensemble. And I'm going to give these to you and ask you to mix them up, shuffle them. Don't peek inside, we'll get to that later. Each one contains something of great interest, or at least I hope it will be. But for right now, all we care about is that they are thoroughly mixed, and thorough indeed is the job she is doing. When you're satisfied that they're mixed, bearing in mind that all these people are waiting on you, hand them back. Okay, I'm going to divide these into two groups. I'll deal them out thusly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we'll put one here, okay? And then again, the same kind of, that feels about right, yeah? Nice and neat. And you get to choose whether I take the first envelope from the pile to your left or the pile to your right.
To the left.
The left, all right. And I'll take another envelope from either pile you say.
To the right.
From the same pile. Okay, and I'm going to put, you said to the right, but you pointed to the left. I'm sorry, is this where you wanted?
No, right here.
You changed your mind. Okay. You have to coordinate what you say with what you point, or they think you're lying. All right, I'm going to put that right down there. Left or right?
2 from the right.
Both from your right? So you want one from here and then another one also
Yes.
from here? Okay. And for you, how about you make the same
I'll
choices?
take one of each.
One from this side and one from this side? Oh, all right, we'll put those there. And for you?
Both from my left.
1 and 2, yes? Okay. And that leaves these two so that we've paired them off according to your say-so, because the last two were according to what you'd left. All right? Let's take a look and see what's inside these mysterious envelopes. And the answer is we have a rather oversized card, and in the other one is another oversized card, so we'll leave those there. Would you take a look inside those envelopes and make sure there's nothing extra in there, just the 2 cards I removed? And we'll do the same thing over here, getting another large card from here and another one from there. And you can take a look in those. And we'll do over here much the same. We'll shake out the first and we'll shake out the second, and we'll let you crawl around in there. And let me see, there's one. And in the, there we go, the other. Take a look in there. And in the last set, I'm getting winded. There we are. And for the benefit of the camera, we'll show you inside that there's nobody home. All right, everything fair? The envelopes are otherwise empty, and we have paired off their contents into these 5 pairs according to your say-so every step of the way. So let's take a look and see what we've got. This pair consists of a bright red circle and a bright red circle. You're applauding on faith. You're applauding on faith because, after all, they could all be bright red circles. However, as it happens over here, we have a green square with a green square, and over here we have wavy lines in blue to match the other set. Over here, a black cross with another black cross, and finally 2 yellow stars, perfect all the way around. I would like to teach you a curious little game with an intriguing history, quite an old history. It goes back about 1,000 years to the Heian era of Japanese history, and a game that was played in the imperial court. Now, the materials they used for this game were quite exquisite. A bag made out of silk brocade. For today's purpose, we'll make use of this, a little bit more economical. And also, they would use beautiful precious stones that had been ground and polished into a perfect condition. Well, these are actually stones from a children's board game, and I believe they're made out of glass. There are 5 of them. 4 of them are made out of white material, and one of them is made out of black material, and that's where the game gets its name, because the name of the game is Kurotsuke, which is Japanese for black moon. Intriguing, no? Here's the way the game works. It's really very simple. I'm going to take the stones, yes? I'm going to shake them up in the bag. And I'm going to give several members of the audience the chance to take one. And the object of the game is to try and guess who gets the black moon, you see? So, with a nice shake there, let me ask you, if you would, reach inside, take one out, but keep it in your fist so that you don't see what color you have, and neither does anyone else. Have you got one?
Got one.
All right, keep it concealed for right now, if you would. One for you, please. Okay? Yep. And how about for you? Just grab one, hold it in your fist, don't let anyone see what it is. Whoop, okay, you got one? All right. How about one for you? Okay. And there's one left, if you can reach in and feel that. And hold it in your fist, okay? Now, the idea with this game was that whoever was it would try and guess who among the players was holding the black stone. And I'm going to try and do that now. But if I were to try and do it at this moment, I would only be guessing, which might or might not be enjoyable, but it wouldn't be very impressive. See, at this moment, I can't tell you who has the black stone for the simple reason that no one in this group knows if they're holding the black one or not. And until that thought is in your mind, well, I have nothing to work with. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn my back and ask each of you to peek inside your fist. Don't show anyone around you. I want you to be the only one who knows. But peek inside your fist so that you know if you're holding the black stone or if you're holding a white stone. And then I'll turn around and we can actually play our game. Take a peek. Okay, I'm going to turn around again, so make sure they're concealed. And at this point, one of you knows that he or she is holding on to that kurotsuke. And I'm going to try and find that person by giving a careful look, one at a time, to each of my players. Ooh, you're very good at this. Even though, as far as I know, none of you's ever played this, but you've always played similar games because you're keeping those very deadpan faces, and it's very rough. And I have to try and eliminate 4 of you as having the white stones and find the one who's correct. Show us your stone. That's one down. That's the white stone. Okay. Show us yours. That should be white also. Yes. That's 2 down. Okay, look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Show us your stone. White again. It's down to the 2 gentlemen in the back. Would you stand up right where you are? One of you has that black moon, and the other a white stone. You've got the white stone. Show them the black one. And you are
Carrie.
Carrie. All right, Carrie, you and I are going to try an experiment involving some cards that have designs on them. And in this case, the designs are all different. There's a whole different bunch of them. Some of them are simple geometric designs. Some of them are more there's a tree, I think that's what that's supposed to be. There's a bottle. So in other words, there's a real assortment. There's, I think over 40 here. And I'm going to mix them on your behalf. And then I'm going to place them face down right here next to the box from whence they came. I will turn my back, and when I do, I want you to cut some cards into the box. Tell me when you have done that. Let me turn away. All right?
All right.
Done?
Done.
Whatever card is on top of the table group is the one you've cut to. Take that card, take a look at it, remember what it is, and then hide it somewhere. Put it in your pocket or where I can't get to it. And I heard a nasty laugh from the back, and I think I know exactly where you've put it, but that's all right. That's all right. That's a little bonus mind-reading moment. Put the rest of the cards in the box.
Okay.
And shut the box, and let's go to work. You're thinking of a design. Now, among those 40 or so designs, some of them are composed entirely of curved lines, some of them are made up entirely of straight lines, and some of them are a mixture of curved and straight. The sense that I'm getting about your design is that it is made entirely of straight lines.
That's correct.
Ah, good. Now, can you please, silently, count the number of straight lines that compose your design? Have you got that number?
Mm-hmm.
It's an even number.
Yes.
All right, we're batting 1,000. Is the design out of view? It's not in your hands?
It's not in my hand.
Good. I can turn around without seeing it, in other words.
Yep.
And it's not in the box, it's in your
in my
somewhere.
pocket.
All right. Okay. Let me give this a try. I'm going to draw what I think is the correct number of lines, first of all, and I think we're talking about 4.
That's correct.
Yeah, but of course there are a whole bunch of designs that are done with 4 lines. So one of the real questions is whether I'm doing the right one. And we'll find that out in just a moment. Could you please retrieve the card from wherever it may be? All right. Okay, it's either a really elegant tree or a triangle on a stick. Whatever you call it, it looks the same as mine.
Wow.
All right.
The first effect you performed was the mockingbird. Let's start there. Come on.
All right. This routine involves a pack of playing cards, and in fact, it is an ordinary pack, so it allows you to continue doing other routines if you so desire. The pack is not gimmicked, it is set up, and let me explain that arrangement. You begin by taking any four of a kind. The values don't matter, but any four of a kind, and you set them out on the table. Now you take another set of four of a kind and deal them onto the first group so that red is on black and black is on red. We don't care in terms of the specific suits, hearts and diamonds, clubs and spades, but red on black, black on red. We repeat this with a third four of a kind and continue throughout the pack so that we wind up with 4 sets of 13 values whereby the colors alternate and the 13 values are going in the same sequence in each set. So now we've got these 4 groups, each 13 cards long and each with a sequence of 13 values that is identical. 2 of them are going black, red, 2 of them are going red, black. We take 2 of the matching groups and place them on the other groups, and it doesn't matter if it goes this way or this way. Having done that, we pick up either half pack and reverse the order of those cards, so that the end result will be one half of the deck in exactly the opposite order of the other half. When that's accomplished, either half is placed onto the other half, and again, it doesn't matter which way. The end result is our stacked deck, and it has this set of characteristics. The card at the face is of the same color and value as the card at the top. And if we go in 13 cards, the 14th card from the top is of the same value but the opposite color, and the 14th card from the face is of the same value and the opposite color. Similarly, the card second from the face mates in the value but not color with the card that is 15th in. The card second in from the top is similarly aligned with the card 15th in, and so forth. That is the deck as it is prepared. Into this deck, I place the joker, and I put that anywhere. It really doesn't matter because it's about to be taken out. We're ready to start the routine. At the outset, I show the deck, and without explaining that the cards are all different and apparently in a random order, I take out the joker, a time-tested method for showing off the condition of the deck without making a big deal out of it. At this point, I need to cut the pack exactly in the center. I can do this in a number of ways. I can do it by a faro check. I can do it by a previously arranged crimp or some sort of a locator card, or I can just look for the only place in the deck where there are 2 cards of exactly the same color and value. That's the only place in the pack where we're going to find that, and that is the center. And at this point, I have the spectator riffle shuffle the 2 halves together. Now, it happens that some spectators are not going to be able to do a good riffle shuffle. We don't care, because the principle I'm about to explain can be done with a very clean riffle shuffle or an extremely sloppy one. It's not going to be effective. So if the spectator is shuffling in big clumps, it doesn't matter. In fact, if the spectator can't riffle shuffle at all, we make use of a solution provided years ago by Paul Curry, who suggested that for that type of spectator, you simply ribbon spread the 2 halves of the deck and encourage the spectator to push them together. And in so doing, the end result is, in fact, a riffle shuffle, even though it looks a little different. That is what's being accomplished. Now, despite the fact that the deck is legitimately being shuffled here, there are certain characteristics of the deck that are retained thanks to the Gilbreth principle. Now, the Gilbreth principle was first put into print in the linking ring in July of 1958 when Norman Gilbreth published Magnetic Colors. And I encountered this a few years later, and it has infatuated me ever since. It is something a bit too complicated to explain here in terms of why it works. Suffice it to say that it is a thing of terrifying beauty. At any rate, because of the Gilbreth principle, despite the fact of the deck being shuffled, there are certain things we know about the deck. Now, I'm going to have the deck shuffled by 4 members of the audience, which would seem to screw things up even further, but in fact it won't. I'm going to divide the deck, as I say, in approximately fourths, but that's a lie. I'm not dividing the deck approximately into fourths, I'm dividing the deck exactly into the fourths. If you heard a little clicking noise, I was just thumb counting 13 cards, which is what I would give to the first person. If you're not comfortable with thumb counting, you can simply spread over in clusters is the easiest way to do it. I generally do that in groups of 3, 4 groups of 3, and then an extra card makes 13. And I do this by saying to the spectator, I'm going to give you approximately a quarter of the deck. So it looks like I'm just sort of estimating, but in fact I'm giving precisely 13 cards to that person. And I do the same thing over here. And of course the last set contains 13. So each of these is now legitimately shuffled by the various participants, and it seems to be giving further chaos to the condition of the deck. However, I do know still a fair amount about what's going on with these cards thanks to that Gilbreth principle. I gather these packets back, and despite the fact that they're shuffled, I'm going to work with them in a particular way, so I have to keep them paired in my own mind. The first and the second packet go together. They form a pair, a group. Now, I don't care if they're in reverse order, but I do care that they link together, and the same is true of these two over here. So I place them back on the table, and I tell the spectator, you're going to pick one of these piles, and you're going to take a card out of that pile while I'm not looking. Now, there are a number of ways that I can find out what pile the spectator has chosen with my back genuinely turned. I find it much easier to let him start picking up the pile before I turn away. So it's just a timing thing. I'm going to turn away, you're going to pick up one of the packets. Go ahead, pick up a packet. And as he reaches for the packet, I turn away, and I now know which packet he's taken. Take the packet, Eugene, you'll play spectator here, and shuffle the cards, and remove one. But don't show it to me, or for that matter, the camera, because we'll explain what's going on. He can reshuffle this packet and set it back. So hold on to the one card, just put it off to the side, and set that back wherever. Now I come to turn around again and see which packet is the one he took it from, and I'm now going to show him the packets one at a time after I explain that the purpose here is to try and find the mate card to the one he's put in his pocket. Now apparently I grab one of these packets at random, but in fact I pick up the packet that he has just used. And I do this for a reason, because I know one thing without any question about the condition of this packet. This packet contains only one ace. Guaranteed, because of the Gilbreth principle. Despite the shuffling, this packet also contains only one deuce, and one 3, and one 4, and one 5. In other words, this packet, as with all the other packets, contains exactly one of each value. That is a guarantee mathematically. So therefore, whatever value is currently missing from this group is the value of the card in his pocket. Now, I won't know which of those 4 it's going to be, but I will know the value. So I'm going to learn a piece of important information about your card when I look at this group. But I begin by fanning the cards out without having to look at them myself, showing them over my shoulder, because I know without looking that he's thinking no. The spectator is going to be not seeing the mate to his card. And now I'm casually looking along as I'm explaining to the spectator how fair this situation is, and as I'm doing that, I'm scanning the values. So now I know that the missing value is 9, that card must be a 9. Don't show it yet, but that is a 9. I don't know which 9 it is. That could be the 9 of spades, hearts, clubs, or diamonds, but I know the card in the spectator's pocket is a 9. So I am a good deal of the way there. The next packet that I take, again, seems to be a random choice, but it isn't. It's the packet that mates with this first one. So in this case, because this second packet was taken, I would next go to the first. If he had taken the first, I would have now gone to the second. If he'd taken the third, I would have gone to the fourth. If he'd taken the fourth, I'd go to the third, because of the way they pair up. So I take this one, and again, this time I can show the cards without looking, because I do know that the 9 in this packet will be of the wrong color. It's a mathematical certainty. So without looking, I can show these cards and say, you're thinking no. And now, very quickly and casually, I can glance at that 9 as I'm putting the cards down and closing the fan. And so I have just spotted a black 9. I now know that this is a red 9. I don't know if it's the 9 of hearts or the 9 of diamonds, but I know that it's a red 9. I am one step further to knowing the identity of the card in your pocket. I now pick up either of these groups. It doesn't matter which, because I don't know which one contains the mate. It mathematically could be either one. So I grab one, and I fan it out. And this time, as I'm fanning it, instead of fanning it here, I start the fan a little further forward so I can spot. And as it happens, I picked up the 9 toward the top, so I can now immediately go over my shoulder, and since this happens to be another black 9, in this case I would say, you're thinking no again, and the mate must be in this packet. If I had seen a red 9 here, I would have said, oh, you're thinking yes. At this point, the trick is over as far as the technical work. I know that this red 9 must match that. That must be the 9 of hearts. To build up the situation a bit, as you saw in the presentation, I divide red and black, and I narrow it down in that way. I have some fun with the spectator as I narrow down to eventually 2 cards, and then eventually to 1 card, and we hit the guaranteed applause cue pose, and the routine is over.
Okay, how about the book test?
Yeah. Well, these are normal books, actually. The only book that's of any specific interest is this one, which is Lawrence Sanders' The Third Deadly Sin. These two, although in fact extremely good books, have nothing to do with the routine other than adding a little bit of mud to the fact that there's only one book involved. This is a bestseller. It's still on the market after having been in print for a good number of years and will continue to be. And they don't tend to change the way in which the book is laid out in the paperback editions, so that even though the cover changes, the contents stay the same. And as long as they do, you'll be able to do this test with a bona fide book that you could even find in someone's home, in which case you can do it with their book. What's going on here is this. Back in the 1970s, I had a conversation with Charles Reynolds in which we were discussing applications to the Adeno principle other than its standard use of forcing a total of numbers that are added up. This goes back to some early slate gimmicks that eventually turned into a gimmicked pad created by a fellow named H.W. Brehout, apparently an English magician who published an idea of this sort in Abra around 1960 that was eventually marketed and became quite popular as add a number or add a no. The idea is it's a switching device. People write things down and then the things are switched. In this case, what I'm using here is a simple sleight of hand means to accommodate that, although you are welcome to do this routine with any of the several dozen gimmicked versions that are available from your favorite dealer. In this case, I'm only using a stack of business cards, one of which has my force set on it, and I'll explain that in just a moment. And that one is face up with the force information written on it, second from the bottom of the stack. So when I begin, I take the stack of cards, I hand it to a spectator, and I ask him or her to write a number toward the top, any number from 1 to 400. I continue with 4 more spectators, and this is in fact what they wrote onto the cards during the demonstration we did earlier. I took this back from the 5th person, and as I was talking about how fair things were, I got a break above the bottom 2 cards. I could have made it easier on myself by trimming this short, but there are things that are easy enough to begin with. So in the moment of taking that break, as I turned toward the spectator who was going to be looking at the book, I did a half pass, which is to say, I simply kicked over the 2 cards beneath the break. This action is screened by the side of the hand. That means that when I held the packet up to the spectator and asked him to think of one of the numbers that had been written down, he was actually looking at 5 numbers that I had written down. I wrote them in different handwritings to give the idea that 5 different people had written them. Now, what those numbers are is somewhat important. 101, 184, 390, 85, 182. Those are the numbers you need. Don't forget them, because that is the key to this mystery, because this book, normal though it is, has a very curious quality. And that is that on all 5 of the pages I've just mentioned, the opening line, the opening sentence or partial sentence, describes something having to do with artificial hair. And therefore, all 5 of those statements will be nicely covered by a drawing such as this. Now, of course, the book is with two other books, and it's necessary to force that choice. To do this, we use the magician's choice, or as it is sometimes called, equivoque. And I'm asked frequently if that's the proper pronunciation, to which the answer is both yes and no. The word in French is pronounced equivoque, so equivoque is obviously wrong, but since it is being used in the context of a magician's secret terminology, I rather like the fact that it's pronounced wrong, because that tells you we're talking about a technique rather than the French word, or I suppose I should say a technique. But anyway, there are a number of different ways to go about using the equivocal techniques that exist to force a book. Let me give you the simplest one, which is Animan's, and I think this is the one that still functions the best. So let's go over this quickly, Eugene. We're going to force, again, this book. So let me ask you to pick up two of them right now and hand one to me. And there's the book we'll use. Now, of course, had you picked up those two but handed me the other one, it would have looked like this. Pick up two of them right now, hand one of them to me, and keep the book that you've chosen for yourself, and we'll continue from there. Of course, it's possible that he'll pick up the other two books, but in that case, pick up two of the books and put them aside. And we still wind up with our force book. So in any eventuality, we have our force book, we have forced our 5 possibilities for page, and now it's only a question of putting them together with the illustration that's going to satisfy the result.
I have a question. Did you find this book with these characteristics?
Yes, otherwise it would be on someone else's video.
How did you find this?
Well, I looked through a lot of books. This fits into a category that's loosely defined as a natural forcing book. Over the years, quite a number of people have, basically through a lot of effort of just paging through books and taking notes as to what's on various pages and trying to notice things that show up, have found books where certain words or phrases or concepts are repeated in enough places in a book to give you something to do with it. I, some years ago, hit upon this notion that I wanted to try and find a book that would function in this way. This is the best I've come across, and it's also not only the best because of the quality of it, but also because it's a best-selling novel, which is easy to find and doesn't seem unusual to bring to the table. I certainly encourage the viewer to find his or her own books that will work, and when you find them, let me know what they are.
I particularly like the third effect you did, divine right.
Well, this is a thing that I've not ever explained before. This goes back to the late 70s, early 80s. It's an outgrowth of an idea of Ted Animan's from 1929, the mental masterpiece, but taken a step further. So first of all, let's describe that. What's going on here is that the case itself is gimmicked. I've taken the case apart and I've split this surface so that it's now half as thick as it used to be when it came from the factory. And then on the inside, I have glued a piece of carbon paper. Some years after Animan came up with this idea, Ralph Reed put out the perfected mental masterpiece, where the carbon was replaced instead by what's called a magic slate, which meant it was easily reused without any resetting to speak of. But finding a good magic slate these days is difficult, so I've gone back to carbon paper. The face card of the deck is prepared by having a piece of blank paper glued on it. So therefore, anything that is written on the central area of the card case is going to come right through, just like a classic impression device, onto that piece of paper. So that's the basic principle of the mental masterpiece case. Now, we use this in conjunction with a gimmick deck, and the deck is gimmicked in a couple of ways. First of all, the bottom 26 cards, which are right here, consist of all the hearts and diamonds in sequence. So ace through king, ace through king. Then the card above that is a joker that's been trimmed short, and since it's never going to be seen or handled, I actually make fairly deep trims to make my life easy. And then the top half of the deck consists of the same black card, in this case the 10 of spades, repeated 26 times. That's the gimmicked deck. So now you sort of get the idea of what's going to go on here. I'm going to send to you the 10 of spades, because that's going to be the only card you can possibly pick. You're going to send to me a red card, which I will find out about thanks to the mental masterpiece gimmick in the case. But let's put the construction together so that you understand what's going on. First of all, I explain that I don't want us to be thinking of the same card when we send a card to each other. Therefore, we're going to try to simplify matters, and what I'm about to do is to force him to pick a red card. And I do it as follows. I say, let's not pick the same card, so what do you prefer, red or black?
Black.
Now, if he says that he prefers black cards, I say, fine, then I'll send you a black card. And logically, you therefore send me a red card. And that seems to be a very fair interpretation of his choice of black. But if I say, what color do you prefer? And you say,
Red.
I say, fine. Then you think of a red card to send to me, and that leaves black for me to send to you. So in either case, the spectator is forced, in this apparently very free situation, to think of a red card. 2 slips of paper, the spectator gets to pick which slip of paper to write upon. That's a choice that means nothing, adds nothing, might as well give it to the person. The spectator also gets to choose which order we write our information down. That doesn't matter either. In either situation, the spectator is going to do his or her writing with the piece of paper positioned centrally. I'm going to do my writing up here over the flap of the case, so it won't get in the way of whatever the spectator's written down. So it doesn't matter which of us goes first, you see. The spectator writes down whatever red card he or she is thinking of, and I write down the 10 of spades. So those are the 2 pieces of information that are on these. The pencil, by the way, and this goes back to the Animan original, is a small pencil. These are called golf pencils in this country. And the reason for that is because the nature of a golf pencil is that you have to press down because of the angle, the way it's held in the hand. A long pencil, you can make a nice light notation, and we want to get some pressure so that the information is going to show up inside the case. So the spectator writes with this small pencil, and now I take out the deck, and as I do, and I shall reposition myself to show you, as I do, I pull out the entire deck far enough that I get to see whatever the information is the spectator has written down. And as soon as I see that information, my thumb lets this kick back into the case, you see? So that now it's going to stay there. Now this is all screened from this side, so as I pull the deck out, it's there, and then as I continue to pull the deck out, I'm now pulling this back, and that stays in the case. All right? We can actually take it out. The face of the card is never going to be seen. However, among other things, I don't want to get carbon all over my fingers, so it's better to leave it in the case. I cut the deck at the short card. I hand half the deck to the spectator, half to myself. I could equivocate the choice of which half. I don't think it's necessary. I say, take those behind your back and shuffle them. And I apparently do the same, but what I'm doing behind my back is not shuffling, it's counting, because I'm looking for your card. Now, what red card, hypothetically, did you pick?
5 of diamonds.
The 5 of diamonds. Now, I know this is the short card, the joker, so I would now count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, jack, queen, king, and I know that I've now hit the end of the heart stack, and now you said 5 of diamonds, so I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there I am. I've got the 5 of diamonds, so my work is over. Of course, while that's going on, the spectator is genuinely shuffling and then taking out any card he wants, which in this case can only be the 10 of spades, which is the card that I had written down for him, because he only has 10s of spades to choose from. By the time the denouement is accomplished, those 2 cards are sitting on the table, and everything else can be put back into the card case and put away. So we end up with clean materials on the table and a reasonably strong effect.
Could you show us the box more fully? Can you take it apart?
Yeah, sure. It's rubber cemented together. It shouldn't be too hard to get it back the way it was. What I did was to peel the cards, the box apart in the first place. Let me just get rid of that. And here's the box opened out. And then I peeled off an entire layer of this inside just to make this thinner and make it receive the impression more easily. And then I glued around the edges and taped over here to make it stay in place a piece of carbon paper. And that's the work. And then I simply carefully glued it all back together, and we were ready to go.
How often do you think you have to change the carbon paper if you did this rather regularly?
I can't answer that because I don't know how you define regularly. You know, if someone works a restaurant like you might be doing it 20 times a night. Someone else working regularly is to do it 20 times a year. So there isn't an answer to that. You just have to keep track of it, and if you start getting weak impressions, better safe than sorry.
Zenvelopes.
You like saying that.
I do.
Yeah. This actually started with a Carl Fulvis effect called tenvelopes, which was a very interesting thing he came up with in 1989 in a book of his called Prototype that was essentially a poker deal. And what was a very curious and clever conceit was that it used envelopes which apparently had a card in each, but actually half of the envelopes had 2 cards and the other half of the envelopes were empty. And I thought that was a terrific idea, and it occurred to me that there were different directions to go with that starting point. So what I've done is to combine this situation of envelopes that are twice filled and envelopes that are empty with the Gilbreth principle, which is a mathematical thing. We don't have time to explain why it works, but it is a thing of terrifying beauty. So I've got 10 envelopes, and 5 of them have 2 matching cards inside, and 5 of them have nothing inside. They're empty. These are made out of a reasonably stiff construction paper, and the reason for that is not only that they should be opaque, but also that the average person who feels the envelopes is not aware that some are full and some are empty, but I can feel the difference because I know what I'm feeling for. But when I hand these to a spectator to shuffle, they mix them as they like, and they don't know that some of them are empty, because they're thick enough that unless you're really trying to feel that quality, you wouldn't know. Fair enough?
Mm-hmm. And there are no flaps.
Well, no, because I'm going to dump them out, the cards out in a moment, so that's why. Also, I should point out that to keep people from getting a premature peek inside, I keep the openings toward myself. Now, I'm going to lay these out into 2 piles, and apparently, having just been shuffled by the spectator, I now apparently randomly deal them down. What I'm actually doing is to construct 2 alternating groups. One group is going to alternate full, empty, full, empty, full, and the other group is going to alternate empty, full, empty, full, empty. And I can do this because I can feel the cards. So that, for example, here's an empty one, I can feel that. So I deal that down, and here's a full one, I can feel that. Okay? I come back here, here's an empty and a full and an empty. And it just seems like I'm sort of haphazardly dealing a pile. And similarly, here's a full, here's an empty, here's a full, here's an empty, here's a full. It takes almost no time, almost no effort, and almost no concentration to arrange this situation. It doesn't matter which group is empty, full, empty, full, empty, and which group is in the opposite. It just matters that you have the situation as just described. Now I'm going to have the spectator select the top card of either pile, the top envelope, I should say, and so go ahead and do that.
This one.
All right, now this happens to be an empty envelope. I now ask you to select the top card of either pile, and because of the Gilbreth principle, whichever pile you pick, it has to be full. It is impossible using this selection procedure to get anything other than a pair of envelopes wherein one is full and one is empty. So which group do we do?
Yeah.
And that is a full one, and you can actually feel the difference, and you know. All right, now we'll try it again.
Oh, that one is
Okay, this one, and?
again.
All right, and I have one empty and one full.
This one
And?
and that one.
All right, and again, the same situation. That's empty, that's full. Go ahead.
2 from here.
Both from here, empty, full. And the last 2, full, empty. So by the virtue of this lovely mathematical reality, we have forced a situation whereby each pair consists of one full envelope and one empty envelope. So now it's just a question of acting like I'm taking 2 cards out of separate envelopes when in fact I'm taking 2 cards out of the same. So I take out a card, and then apparently I blow up the second envelope, and I go right back where I started and take out another card. Now I can hand the envelopes to a spectator to examine because they are both empty, and I have 2 matching cards. I repeat this 4 more times, and then I stand back and let people applaud.
Okay, here we go.
Aren't you going to try and pronounce the name of this one?
Absolutely not.
Yes, Kurotsuke. This is a piece that I came up with in the early 1980s, and I've held on to it ever since. One of the things I like about it, it's not a bad little performance piece. It involves a lot of people, and it's entirely impromptu. There's nothing special about the materials. The bag can be any type of bag. You can borrow a bag to do this. And the items do not have to be fancy. Not that these are terribly fancy, but they could be marbles, they could be coins, they could be balls of paper with one having an X on it. There are all sorts of ways you can go about this. So you can literally put this together whenever and however you like, using whatever is available. In this case, I've used stones from a children's board game. You can use marbles, and there are various other fancy things you can buy if you want to do that. This is a type of routine that has been explored by many people over the years. Who's got what type of thing, in this case specific to finding 1 out of 5. The challenge here is as follows. I don't suppose it'll surprise you to know that I'm holding back the black one. When I take the 5, I simply keep hold of the black stone and hold it up against the mouth of the bag, so that when the first people start picking, they have to be getting white stones. However, that only works for the first 3 people, because the 4th person, if they reach in, they're going to feel there's only 1. The people before that are not going to know that it's 1 short. You can't, in the quick action of reaching in, you can't tell that there's 1 missing. But now this last person is going to reach in, this 4th person, and realize there's only 1 stone, and the game's over. So that's what makes this interesting. And what happens? Well, here's what happens. After the 3rd person has chosen their stone, in shaking the bag on my way to the 4th person, I drop the black stone. So now the black and 1 of the whites are remaining in the bag. So the 4th person takes out 1, and so does the 5th person, and I don't know which of them has which. The bag at this point is empty. I can tear it up and crumple it up and throw it away. We're only interested in the stones. And all I know is that the black stone is in the possession of either the 4th or the 5th person. Now, I've deliberately not gone sequentially in a row. I've deliberately gone sort of back and forth with my people so that it's not totally clear who was in the final position, who was in the 4th position, and so forth, and that's of some value. But I now only know that the 4th person may have the black one or the 5th person. So how do I deal with this? And the answer is through verbal subterfuge. I explained that the nature of the game, which by the way has nothing to do with any imperial court of Japan, Heian or otherwise, and if you find a different ethnic background you'd like to give to this game, by all means do so with my blessing. But I explained that the game is to try and find the black one, and I also point out that in order to do that, I have to eliminate the 4 white stones. I then, after a moment's concentration, suddenly spin around to person number 4 and say, "Show us your stone." Now, the person does, and if they have the black stone, the routine's over. I've done what I promised to do. I have found the person with the black stone. Everybody applauds. The white stones are revealed to be in the other people's possessions, and everybody goes home happy. If, however, as was the case in the performance that was videotaped earlier, the person, number 4, opens their hand and has the white stone, instead of saying, "Oh, I failed," I proceed as if that was the design, because I said I was going to eliminate the 4 white stones. And therefore I say, "You've got a white stone, now let's see if I can do it again." And now I start eliminating other people in a sort of random sequence until only person number 5 is left. They, of course, must be the one with the black rock, and therefore we're able to bring the routine to a viable conclusion.
And now we come to the mind's eye deck.
Yeah. I worked this out about 20 years ago. It's a design duplication and has relationships to various other people's work. And in order to explain it, the first thing we have to do is to explain the construction of the deck, which is not as simple as it may appear. The cards are in pairs, and each pair is easily remembered. So let's first of all find out what those are. A circle and a square, a skull and a coffin, a heart and a diamond, a club and a sort of stylized spade, a man and the top hat he would wear, an electric light bulb and a candle, a key and a door, 2 circles, 2 squares, a wine bottle, a wine glass, a tree and a house, a rice bowl and a pair of chopsticks, a clock and a stylized hourglass, an oval and a rectangle, wavy water and a boat, a choo-choo train car and the track it rides upon, a cloud and a lightning bolt, a 5-pointed star and a 6-pointed star, a bow and an arrow, a spiral and a squared spiral, a British pound sign and a simplified British flag. So these are the designs. You can obviously come up with others once you understand the principle that I'm about to explain. These are easily made yourself on blank stock with a marking pen. This deck was actually manufactured in Japan by Tono Nosaka for Magic Land, and they are available through him, but they're easy to make yourself. The only other thing to know is that in each pair, one of the cards is constructed entirely of straight lines. The other card may be curved lines, may be a mixture, but one of them will always have straight lines, and there will always be an even number of straight lines. And that is the key to this routine. Also, when the cards are paired together, the item that has the all straight lines is on a card that's been trimmed short. The Svengali principle that dates back actually hundreds of years to the blow books, but that was first applied to cards by Burling Hull around 1905. So the cards are assembled in these pairs with the short card going at the face of each pair. Now, obviously, you're going to have to memorize these pairs. That information is going to be of use to you later. But they have been constructed so that it's quite easy to memorize. Once you make up the deck in the action of actually drawing these, you will have learned them. And once you learn them, you'll never have to study them again because they're so obvious. I mean, 2 circles and 2 squares is not exactly a huge stretch of the imagination to link together. The cards go into these pairs. And what this means is that because of the long-short principle, I am in a position to give the deck a riffle shuffle. And because of the long-short situation, tap them on this end, all the short cards fall down, and they fall in pairs, and therefore, even though they're being shuffled, the pairs stay together. That is what allows me to shuffle the cards when I do. Now, I carry the cards in a clear plastic case. Easily found, you can find a lot of children's game decks that are sold in plastic cases. If you can't possibly find a plastic case, no matter how hard you look, I'll show you an alternative a little later, but the case makes for a nice handling, as I'm about to explain. The whole idea here is not only to limit the spectator's choice, but to limit it in such a way that you can start to describe the person's design before you ever have an opportunity to get a clue about it, and that's what I think gives this routine some strength. So what we're going to do is this. We take the pack out of the case, we display the cards, we can shuffle, and now we put the deck face down onto the table, butted next to the bottom of the case. And this is a splendid idea that was put into print many years ago by Eddie Joseph. I'm going to turn my back and ask the spectator to cut some cards off the deck. But because it is placed next to the case, when the person cuts cards off, putting the cutoff stock into the box, they are forced to cut from the narrow ends. Because to do this is awkward. You can't cut with the case there, and to push this aside is presumptuous. These are my props, not the spectator's. So in the normal scheme of things, the spectator will cut from the ends, and in so doing, because of the long-short situation, they will cut between a pair, a long-short pair, so that whatever the card is above the cut, it will be the first card of the pair that is completed by the card below the cut. So when the spectator cuts this group into the box, the next card is taken, and whatever the card is on the bottom of the completed deck, that's going to tell me what card is in the spectator's pocket. If I subsequently see that they have put the man card on the bottom, then I know that they have got the top hat card in their pocket. You're with me on this. Now, just before we go any further, let me explain what to do if it turns out you can't find a a nice plastic box like this. Somewhere, yes, I have an ordinary card box. And in fact, this is the way Eddie Joseph originally used the idea. And in this case, you wouldn't say cut the cards into the box, but rather you would say cut some cards and just set them over there, and the spectator would do that. The same thing is accomplished. It's not quite as elegant, but you understand how the principle works. And then in that case, the person would take this card, the deck would be reassembled here. Now, the next step is, when this takes place with my back turned, to start feeding back information before I have turned around. And I know certain things. I know that whatever card the person has taken, it is a card that is composed entirely of straight lines, because they have cut to that short card situation. I also know that there's an even number of straight lines. So I can give this information before I turn around, thus suggesting that I'm starting to learn about the spectator's card before I ever go near the deck. Now, I actually don't know what the card is, and I'll find that out after I turn around. I'm going to turn around and find out what the bottom card is. In this particular situation, I'm going to find out it's the candle by seeing that the bottom card is the electric light bulb. Now, in the case of using the plastic box, I will sight this as I pick up the plastic box. I get a clear view of it. And I can do this in one of two ways, and I actually used both of them in the demonstration earlier. One way of obtaining that glimpse is simply pulling the box off of the pad of paper. I have to get to the pad of paper to draw my picture. It's therefore not unnatural to glimpse the bottom information in so doing. The other way is to say to the spectator, now, the card is in your pocket, not in the deck. Now, of course, I know it's in his pocket because I told him to put it there, but by asking what seems to be a fair question to make sure things are as they are supposed to be, I have my opportunity to look. Now, that works in the case of the clear plastic box. In the case of the opaque box of this sort, where the cut was made off to here, I would simply turn around and in sort of a helpful fashion, I would put the deck back in the case. And in that action, I would be able to sight the card on the face of the deck and know what I need to know. In either case, I have now glimpsed the bottom card of the deck once the cut was completed. And I'm therefore able to complete my knowledge of what the design is that the person has in their pocket. That's what I draw on the pad of paper, allowing me the lovely revelation at the finish with the standard applause pose, and everybody is very impressed.
Well, I thought that went pretty well. The taping went smoothly, and you seemed to feel comfortable in it, and everything was nice. Don't you feel good about it?
My left arm has gone numb.